So we have the storm that drowned an entire state.
August 29th.
This is Hurricane Katrina. I was 1 year old, and I low-key remember that we had to kind of shelter in place, but I was in Texas, so
it's early morning on the Gulf Coast, and one of the most powerful hurricanes in American
Houston,
history
Texas, bro.
is bearing down on the city of New Orleans.
So this was a big deal for New Orleans.
Meteorologists had been watching Katrina for days. What started as a disorganized cluster of storms in the Bahamas had exploded into a Category 5 monster over the Gulf of Mexico.
Damn.
The first to form there in 25 years.
Hurricane Katrina is still blowing strong tonight, building in strength as it heads across the Gulf of Mexico, and it's expected to hit land a second time.
Ladies and
Careful, because it's finna get that time too, where, you know, hurricane season around. At least for us in the Gulf, and we gotta watch out for each other, bro.
I wish I had better news for you, but I do want the citizens to understand that this is very serious.
Yep.
And it's of the highest nature. The first choice for every citizen
Evacuate, bro. Evacuate.
By the time evacuation orders went out, over 1 million people had already left. But tens of thousands couldn't, or
Damn.
didn't. And what was coming for them was far worse than they could imagine. Because
See, people would think it's vacation, but bro, when you hear that, just go, you know.
Wasn't the only threat.
Don't say, bro.
What destroyed the city had been quietly failing for 40 years, and every single engineer who looked at it knew it. They wrote reports. They ran simulations. Just 1 year before the storm, the government modeled exactly what would happen if it broke. The results were catastrophic. And
Is this
nothing was done.
the dam or something? Is there a dam?
What happened next didn't just flood a city. It drowned an entire state.
Oh my god, bro.
To understand what happens on August 29th, 2005, you first have to understand what New Orleans is and why it was always one catastrophic storm away from disappearing.
Okay.
New Orleans sits in southern Louisiana, wedged between Lake Pontchartrain to the north and the Mississippi River to the south. It is one of the most geographically vulnerable cities in the world. Much of the city lies below sea level. In some neighborhoods,
I didn't even know that.
as much as 10 feet below. The only reason New Orleans exists at all in its current form is because of an enormous interlocking system of levees, flood walls, and drainage canals that hold back the surrounding water on every side. Take that system away,
Bro, dude, I don't know how you couldn't be scared living there.
and
That's
New Orleans
crazy.
doesn't flood, it sinks, and everyone in the city knew it. For generations, this system worked. And for generations, the people of New Orleans lived with the quiet understanding that it had to keep working because the alternative was unthinkable. But there was a problem that engineers and scientists had
Dude,
been
that's
raising for
crazy, bro.
years. The levees protecting New Orleans had been
Let
built
me
by
turn
the
it up.
U.S. Army Corps of Engineers over several decades, and many of them were not
The
built
video
to
sounds
withstand a
slow.
major hurricane. Studies going back to the 1990s had modeled what would happen if a large, slow-moving storm made a direct hit on the city. The results were
That should be good.
consistently alarming. In 2004, 1 year before Katrina, FEMA funded a disaster simulation exercise called Hurricane Pam. It looked at what would happen if a slow-moving Category 3 hurricane hit New Orleans directly. The simulation predicted tens of thousands of deaths, a city completely submerged, a humanitarian...
Okay. If FEMA literally predicted the storm, simulated it, like, why didn't they try to do something about it? Was it just too late? Or they just
experienced? When
I don't know.
researchers presented their findings to federal officials, they recall the room not taking it seriously.
Yeah.
One scientist described feeling like, quote,
the whole idea was Hurricane Pam was to educate, but, you know, there were a lot of federal folks who were just in the back room laughing. You know, I
That's
distinctly
crazy.
got the feeling that I was the geek with a strange accent, and that was it.
The warnings were there.
The problem wasn't a lack of information. It was what happened next. On
When the
August
actual
23rd,
storm hits, that's
2005,
crazy.
A tropical depression formed over the southeastern Bahamas. Within 24 hours, the depression strengthens into tropical
I always wondered, how does hurricanes get through Florida and then still be hitting us, like in Texas and Louisiana? I always wonder how that happens.
Katrina. It moves west, crosses the Bahamas, and on
If you think
August
about it,
25th,
Florida is really
makes its
cooked
first
then.
landfall in South Florida as a Category 1 hurricane with 80
But they
miles per
didn't
hour
get the
winds.
worst of it though. What the heck? What? Bro, come on, bro. The whole hurricane. Oh my god. I swear to God, there's something wrong with them Floridians, bro. Hey, come on, bro. What the? Oh,
It kills 14 people.
secret
and
talent,
moves into
bro.
the
It's
Gulf of
crazy.
Mexico, where it weakens briefly over land before
How do you even
encountering
know you
something
could do that, bro?
Changes everything. Something that would make Katrina impossible to stop. The Gulf of
Oh, hell
Mexico
no,
in late
bruh.
August is warm, unusually warm. The
Yeah.
water temperatures Katrina moves over are around 30 degrees Celsius, essentially high octane fuel for a tropical system. A
Yeah,
strong
once it reaches the Gulf, bro, we're cooked, bro.
the upper level airflow above the storm allows it to rapidly expel heat and intensify with almost nothing holding it back. The results are staggering.
Man,
On August 27th, Katrina reaches Category 3 strength. The following morning, just after midnight, it is upgraded to Category 4. By 7 a.m. on August 28th, Katrina has become a Category 5 hurricane, the first to form in the Gulf of Mexico in 25 years, with maximum sustained winds of 175 miles per hour. Its central pressure drops to 902 millibars, making it one of the most intense Atlantic hurricanes
man,
ever
god
recorded.
dang, bro.
At 10 a.m. on August 28th, New Orleans Mayor Ray
My experience with this, I was 1 years old, and me and my parents, we sheltered in place in the house that they barely just bought. I'm pretty sure they barely like built that house too. I just remember sleeping in the bathroom because
issues the first
I guess that was the safest spot in the house. I don't
mandatory
know.
evacuation order
But it
in
was
the
crazy,
city's
though.
history.
Ladies and gentlemen, I wish I had better news for you, but we are facing a storm that most of us have feared. I do not want to
Damn.
create panic, but I do want the citizens to understand that this is very serious.
And they were laughing at that engineer, bro. When they could have just listened, took his advice. They didn't even have to full send into that plant. They could have just been like, all right, you know, like, we understand your concern. We're going to do stuff to hope it, you know, calm down a little bit.
And it's
But
of the highest
they just
nature.
laughed at him.
And
That's crazy.
That's why we're taking this unprecedented move. The storm is now a Cat 5, a Category 5, as I appreciate it. So that's why we're ordering a mandatory evacuation.
It is, by any measure, the
Dang.
right call.
Yeah.
It is also, for many residents, already too late to fully act on. Those without cars, those who are elderly, those who are ill, for hundreds of thousands of people, the order to leave is not the same as the ability to leave.
I mean, some people just
Forecasters
can't.
at the National Hurricane Center issue warnings that are among the most dire ever written for an American city. One bulletin, released on the afternoon of August 28th, states
And
that
some people leave and they go straight to a hotel that's like 30 miles from their house. Like, brother, like, huh?
surge could cause
That is
the
not
levees
even out
system
the
to be
state.
overtopped.
Like,
that
I mean,
human suffering
I
will
don't
be
know.
incredible. That water shortages will make human existence
I mean, it could help,
nearly
but
impossible. The bulletin warns of
They gotta
areas
be
that
safe
may
out
be
there, man.
uninhabitable for weeks. The language is almost unprecedented for an official weather forecast. But even as those words are being written, Katrina is already beginning to weaken slightly as it moves over slightly cooler waters closer to shore.
Yeah.
By the time it makes landfall, it is no longer a Category 5.
That's
But the
4.
damage that is coming has already been set in motion. The surge, the
Dang.
enormous wall of ocean water pushed ahead of the storm, was built during Katrina's peak intensity. By the time Katrina made landfall, it was no longer a Category 5, but the most dangerous part of the storm had already been created. At 6:10 a.m. on August 29th, 2005, Hurricane Katrina makes landfall at Buras in Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana.
Oh my God.
Approximately 50 miles southeast of New Orleans, as a strong Category 3 hurricane with maximum sustained winds of 125 miles per hour. Its
120,
central pressure at
bro,
landfall
nah.
is 920 millibars, the 4th lowest ever recorded for a U.S. landfalling hurricane. It then continues northeast and makes a second landfall near the Mississippi-Louisiana border. Initially,
Wait,
federal
Mississippi got hit too? Oh wait, that's
officials believe
crazy.
The city has dodged the worst of it. The eye of the storm has passed slightly east
Wait, no
of New
way it
Orleans.
comes back and does a
Wind damage is
360.
serious, but survivable. For a brief period on the morning of August 29th, there's a sense
Dang,
of
that's good.
cautious relief. It doesn't last.
Wait,
Before dawn, waves from the storm surge had already begun overtopping and eroding levees along the Mississippi River Gulf outlet. At around 5 a.m., on the east side of the Inner Harbor Navigation Canal, a 30-foot
fails,
section
bro.
of flood wall, known locally as the Industrial Canal, the very water.
brother, like, I'm sorry. I don't know how I'd be able to live if I have a house, then a street, then a whole river with the wall. Just that's the only protection.
Experts had long
Nah,
warned
bro.
would act as a deadly funnel.
That flood insurance better be.
Breaches.
Oh
Water begins
damn!
pouring through.
Wait, they got footage of this, or is this AI? Hold on.
Water begins pouring through.
There's no way this is real. Oh my, that has to be AI.
Then a second breach opens.
Another one?
Then another.
Oh my God. So it wasn't even the storm then, or well, it was, but like
Over the course of the next 24
the main
hours,
damage.
there will be more than 50 reported failures in the levee and flood
Oh
wall
my-
system
nah.
surrounding New Orleans. The water does not rise slowly. It
Yo,
surges.
if you live in New Orleans, bro, prayers to you, bro. You have some type of soul that you're a warrior, bro. That's all I can say, bro.
In the lower ninth
You're a
ward,
warrior, bro.
residents describe walls of water appearing without warning, filling rooms in seconds. People who had chosen to ride out the storm in their homes suddenly find the water at their waist,
Oh my.
then at their chest, then above their head. Those who can reach their attics do. Those who cannot, do not.
Hold the rope. Let him pull to the boat.
Oh my God, bro. Okay, what I'm confused is, so say if you're in this situation, right? And I've thought about this because, you know, hurricanes hit Texas, right? It's only natural. So say if you're in a flood situation and there's water just rushing at you, if you know how to swim, are you able to swim in this situation or no? Or is it just like the current's too like bang, like too fast or something? Like I don't know. I've always wondered that. Like,
Later, rescuers
or
will
like if
find
you have like a
axe marks
floaty or
in
something,
attic ceilings
like a life
across the
vest,
flooded
like,
neighborhoods. The marks of
are you
people who
able
had
to
managed
still
to hack their
float with
way
the life
onto
vest?
rooftops to escape the rising water inside.
oh shit.
Some made it, some did not. By the afternoon of August 29th, 20% of New Orleans is underwater. By August 31st, that number
God,
reaches
bro.
80%.
That's the whole state, bro.
Some parts of the city are submerged
Our
under
city.
15 feet of water. The famous French Quarter and Garden District, among the oldest parts of the city, and crucially, among the few areas built above sea level, are largely spared. But
Wow.
the vast residential neighborhoods that surround them are gone. Lakeview, the lower Ninth Ward, St. Bernard
Wow.
area, Gentilly, New Orleans East. These are not flooded, they are submerged.
God, bro.
As the
Prayers,
system
bro,
failed,
prayers.
the disaster shifted from infrastructure to people. Tens of thousands of people who could not evacuate seek shelter in two locations, the Louisiana Superdome and the New Orleans Convention Center. At the Superdome, roughly 15,000 people arrive before the storm. What follows is a humanitarian crisis that unfolds on live television in front of the entire country. Food runs out.
I didn't even think
Water
about
runs
that,
out.
bro.
Toilets stop working. The roof of the Superdome is partially torn open by the wind. People are sleeping on concrete floors in 95-degree heat.
Bro.
40,000 homes flooded in St. Bernard Parish, just east of New Orleans. At the Superdome, home to 9,000 storm refugees, chunks of the metal roof have been blown away. The stench of death especially strong around the convention center in the Superdome, where people have moved into the open air as they try to get away from it and closer to where buses and National Guardsmen can get to them.
We've been out here 4 days. We've really been out here 4 days.
Days pass before buses arrive to move people out. Outside, the city is a different kind of chaos. Thousands of people who are stranded in flooded homes communicate their locations however they can. Spray painting rooftops, waving from upper story windows, calling family members who call news stations, who call emergency services. The response from local, state, and federal authorities is widely criticized as slow, uncoordinated, and inadequate. FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, faces fierce criticism for its lack of preparation and its failure to mobilize resources quickly enough for a disaster that its own simulations had predicted in detail. One of the most haunting images of the entire disaster is the sight of people, mostly elderly, many of them without the means to leave, stranded on elevated highway overpasses in the August heat, surrounded by floodwater, waiting for help that takes days to arrive. Doris Commerdell, a 93-year-old woman from Chalmette in St. Bernard Parish, is rescued from her flooded home after spending several days trapped there. She had lived in the same house for decades.
Wow.
When rescuers reached her, she had been surviving on what little food she had managed to move to her second floor. Her neighborhood, like most of St. Bernard Parish, was completely destroyed.
What?
She never returned.
Ah, man, prayers,
The
bro.
death toll accumulates slowly, because for days and then weeks, the full scale of what has happened is impossible to assess. Victims are found in attics, in flooded cars, in homes that look intact from the outside, but contain the remains of people who could not get out.
Damn.
40% of the fatalities are attributed to drowning. Almost half of all victims are over the age of 74.
Man, rest in peace,
The
bro.
storm did not kill randomly. It killed the people who had the fewest options. The official death toll from Hurricane Katrina, revised by the National Hurricane Center in 2023.
Wow, that's actually like a very like good quote. Like if they start quoting that for people like in that are prone to natural disasters, I feel like that could be a good quote. Low-key. I think he cooked.
1,400 people.
Because what that means is like if you're more prepared, you're prepared for the storm, you know.
Damage reaches an estimated $125 billion, making it one of the costliest natural disasters in American history.
More likelihood to
Louisiana
survive.
alone, over 1,500 people lose their lives. More than 134,000 housing units in New Orleans, 70% of all occupied homes in the city, sustain damage. 1 million housing units across the broader Gulf Coast region are affected. The population of New Orleans falls from nearly 485,000 before the storm to an estimated 230,000 by
half
July of the following year.
Half?
More than
Pop,
half the
bro.
city gone.
Dude. Nah,
Some
that's cooked,
neighborhoods
bro.
never recover. The lower Ninth Ward,
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if people start moving out there,
one of the
bro.
hardest hit
Or moving
areas,
away.
remains visibly scarred for years.
Dude.
Empty lots where houses once stood. Streets that were
Dude.
rebuilt but never repopulated. In June 2006, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers officially acknowledges that faulty design specifications, incomplete sections, and
yeah.
substandard construction of levee segments contributed to the flooding of New Orleans. A subsequent analysis
It's
by
gonna
the
be a
American
huge
Society of
investigation,
Civil
bro.
Engineers concludes that 2/3 of the flooding could have been avoided if the levees had held. The deadliest aspect of Hurricane Katrina was not the storm. It was the infrastructure failure that followed it.
Damn.
And that infrastructure failure was not inevitable. It was preventable. Not because no one knew, but because nothing was done.
Bro, if that's real footage,
The
that's
federal government
crazy.
eventually commits more than $14 billion to rebuilding and reinforcing the levee system around New Orleans.
The Army Corps of Engineers is spending $14.3 billion to bolster New Orleans' hurricane protection system.
Do I feel safe? Do I think the Corps of Engineers has done enough to protect this city, to protect this area? No.
New floodgates,
Damn.
ramps, and surge
Damn.
barriers are constructed.
He still don't believe in those
The system
walls,
that
bro.
exists today
Should
is
I mean,
substantially more robust than the one
that just
failed
sucks, bro.
in 2005. Whether it is enough remains an open question that every hurricane season brings back into focus. Katrina's name was retired by the World Meteorological Organization in
they had to retire the name? Nah.
2006. It will never be used again for an Atlantic storm.
Why did they? Okay, here's another thing that always like confused me. Like, how is there a name for every single hurricane that they have, bro? Harvey, shoot, no, I don't know. Angelica, I don't know the latest hurricanes, honestly, and I hope we don't really ever get another hurricane, but the odds of
20
that is
years
just
later, New
zero.
Orleans is still New Orleans. The music still plays on Frenchman Street. The food is
Man,
still unlike
they have some
anything else
good
in
food, bro.
America. The city rebuilt. But it rebuilt unevenly. And in the neighborhoods that bore the worst of the flooding, the question of whether the recovery was ever truly complete, that question has never fully gone away. Katrina didn't just drown a state. It exposed everything that was already broken underneath. And for thousands of people, the cost of that failure was permanent. The storm didn't destroy New Orleans. The system did.
Damn. I didn't really know that either.
If you made it this far, I appreciate
W video, honestly,
these videos. Take
like a really
lot of
good
time to
video.
put together, and every like, comment, and subscription genuinely helps.
Oh my,
keep them.
bro, I already see Harvey, bro. Low key, I might have to see that one. Honestly, Harvey, man, Harvey, like for where I'm located at in Texas, it wasn't too bad, but I know some people that it was pretty bad. Like, honestly, low key, I might have to watch that next. But W reaction, W video. If you enjoyed this reaction, let me know in the comments below. But yeah.